All right, let's get right into it. We're going to explore the psychology behind something a lot of us feel but don't really talk about, that genuine preference for a smaller social circle. So is it some kind of flaw, or could it actually be a superpower? Oh, you know this feeling. It's that little sinking in your gut. That feeling that you would honestly rather be at home, maybe alphabetizing your spice rack, than making small talk at another party. For so long, our culture has basically screamed at us that more is more when it comes to friends. But what if that feeling of social burnout is actually trying to tell you something really important? And this is the question so many of us quietly ask ourselves. If you've ever felt like you were kind of broken because you just don't want a social calendar packed to the brim, you're going to want to stick around because psychologists have been documenting something absolutely fascinating for decades about people who prefer a life with a little more solitude. To really get to the bottom of this, we first have to unpack this common feeling, this aversion to big social events. And here's a hint. It's not about being antisocial. It's actually about something much, much deeper. This right here is the key. It's the whole ballgame. We have this tendency to just lump all forms of being alone into one big negative category, but the research is super clear that this is a fundamental misunderstanding. And you know what? It's the source of so much unnecessary guilt and anxiety for a lot of people. So let's make a critical distinction that really changes everything. It's not about if you're alone, it's about how you're alone. Okay, so what's so interesting here is the data from places like the University of Chicago. Loneliness, that's a painful signal. It's your brain screaming that your social needs aren't being met, and you can feel that in a room jam-packed with people. But chosen solitude, that's completely different. That's an intentional, often really fulfilling state where you choose to be with yourself to recharge and just think. They are not the same thing, not even in the same ballpark. And this just nails the point home. You know, you can have 800 followers on Instagram and feel profoundly isolated, while someone with 3 amazing lifelong friends feels deeply, truly connected. So the crucial takeaway is that this is not a numbers game. It's about whether you feel seen, understood, and valued by the people you do have in your life. Okay, so we've established that choosing solitude isn't a problem. Now let's flip the script and look at the other side of the coin. Let's talk about the unique psychological strengths, the superpowers, that often come along with it. Yeah, personality research consistently finds that people who are genuinely comfortable with their own company score really high in these areas. They develop strong self-awareness because, well, they actually have the quiet time to listen to their own thoughts. They're better at what psychologists call emotional self-regulation, basically managing big feelings without needing to be distracted. And they tend to be driven by what's called intrinsic motivation, which just means they do things because they truly matter to them, not for a round of applause. And this might be the most powerful part of all. Because they aren't afraid of being alone, when they do decide to reach out and connect, it's intentional, it's authentic. They invest their social energy in deeper relationships that really matter, which, let's be honest, is a much healthier way to live in a world that's always screaming for our attention. And there's another superpower here, creativity. Einstein knew this intuitively, and modern neuroscience is actually starting to prove him right. It turns out that solitude is often the very soil where our most original ideas begin to grow. Think about it like this. When your brain isn't constantly busy processing social cues, reading faces, managing how you're coming across, it frees up all this bandwidth. That's when you can get into this state of divergent thinking. It's the bedrock of creativity. So by creating that space, you're not missing out on inspiration. You're actually cultivating it. Now, it is really, really important that we add a layer of nuance here. This is not about romanticizing all forms of being alone, because there's a side to this that can carry some pretty serious health risks. This is the absolute key difference. We are talking about chosen solitude. We are not talking about the painful, chronic feeling of being isolated and unseen, no matter how many people are physically around you. That feeling is something else entirely, and it's dangerous. Research from the National Institute on Aging is crystal clear on this. That feeling of persistent perceived loneliness can have a real measurable negative impact on our physical and cognitive health over the long term. So feeling connected absolutely matters. How we achieve that connection, though, is deeply personal. And this brings us to the final and I think most empowering takeaway from all this research. It's about figuring out what works for you. I just love this analogy. Think about it. Some people need daily interaction with lots of different people to feel energized. Others, they just need one deep conversation a week and plenty of alone time to recharge. Neither of these approaches is wrong or healthier. They're just different psychological profiles. And this is the trait that people who thrive with fewer friends often develop. They have a strong internal compass. They're comfortable with their own thoughts and have learned who they are on their own terms. For them, solitude isn't an emptiness, it's just space. So, after looking at all this, you start to realize that our culture has been asking the completely wrong question about friendship and our social lives this whole time. We need to just throw this entire metric out the window. It's such a shallow question, it misses the entire point of what genuine human connection is even about. This is it. This is the only question that actually matters. Are you forcing yourself into a social life that just leaves you feeling drained? Or are you honoring your own real need for both connection and solitude? Because finding that authentic balance for yourself, that's not a failure. That is the definition of success. So if you enjoyed this, consider liking the video. Also, if you want more psychology-based insights explained in simple, practical language, hit subscribe. And remember, understanding yourself is the first step to changing your life. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.